Hi, I'm Paul Giggi with Franchise Frankness, and today we're going to do a little Q&A. We've received a number of questions from you on our various social media outlets, and we're going to address some of those today. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Franchise Frankness YouTube channel. So let's dive right in. Our first question is from Megan. And Megan's question is, should I start my own business or use my money to invest in a franchise? Megan, this is a good question, and it's probably has a much longer answer than we're going to be doing here. But let me just say this, it's two different approaches, and it's really personal preference. If you're going to build your own business, there's pros and cons to that, just as there's pros and cons to being a franchise. With your own business, you're going to have to do all of the development yourself. So you're going to have to write a menu, write the recipes, determine where you're going to source product, all of the equipment, you're going to have to spec that, the floor coverings, the window coverings, the ceiling, the look of the restaurant, all of those details, and there's many of them, you're going to determine yourself. The pro of that, at the end of it, you're going to have Megan's restaurant, and it's going to be yours, and you have something to be very proud of. On the other side of this, you've got franchising. Franchising, the pro of franchising is that you have a concept that is, normally it's going to be known, so it is concept awareness, and all of those things I just mentioned and many more are already determined for you. So the menus, the recipes, the sourcing of the product, the window shades, the flooring, the ceilings, all of that is done for you, and it's all spec'd for you, so you don't have to go take the time or the money to do that. The con on a franchise is you're going to pay a royalty for that, and that's what you're paying the royalty for. The money that you pay to the franchisor is to pay for all that work that was done prior and all the work that they will do going forward for you. And that will be there with you forever. It'll be a line item on your P&L. It's going to be somewhere in the vicinity of 4 or 5%, upwards to maybe 10, 11, or 12%, and that'll be with you as long as you're a franchisee. Okay, next up is Terrell. Terrell asks, I want to open a restaurant franchise, but I've never worked in a restaurant. Do I need to have restaurant experience to apply for a franchise? Well, the simple answer is no, you don't have to have experience to apply for a franchise. But there may be requirements that you can find from the franchisor that will answer this question better for you. I would suggest you look on the website or get some information about the specific franchise and see if the franchisor does require you to have background and experience in operating a restaurant. They should be pretty clear about that. You may find that some franchisors actually want you to have experience in the restaurant sector that you're actually going to be in. So if you're in QSR or you're in fast casual or even fine dining, they may want you to have some specific experience in that sector. That doesn't mean you can't go looking for other franchises, because many do not have that requirement. But I would say most of them would have a requirement that you have some sort of experience in operating a business. Now, that doesn't mean it's your own business that you have. You may be just working for others in a business, and you have some sense of the dynamics that are involved in operating a business. In fact, I would say that should be a minimum criteria that you should have of yourself. You need to have some comfort with operating a business before you decide to go buy one. Okay, our next question comes from Neil, and he's got a three-part question here. How much should I save up to invest in a franchise? How much will it cost? And can I apply for financing for the franchise? How much you should save up to invest in a franchise really is a product of how much is the franchise going to cost you. So you need to do some due diligence in looking at different franchises, and each franchise will give you a general idea of how much it typically costs to build one. They can't give you specifics, but they'll give you a general idea of, or a range of how much it'll cost you to build that. And a lot of times you can find that information actually on their websites, or if not, you can always just call the franchisor and ask, and they would be happy to tell you that. Then your next question is, how much will it cost? It's hard to say. You're going to have to pay some of it yourself, and that number is going to be determined by how much you can afford and how much the franchise costs. And actually this may help you in your due diligence to find which concept you really want to invest in. The final part of your question is, can I apply for financing? Yes, you can. There's the typical ways people apply for financing. One way would be friends and family. So you can go to friends and family and ask them if they're willing to invest in the franchise. You'll have to give something up for that, but that's one way that you can approach financing. Another way would be going to a bank and looking for commercial loans to build a restaurant. And even through the banks, you can look at SBA loans, which is a typical way a lot of first-time franchisees will look to finance. You'll find that the SBA is probably a little bit less expensive than a commercial loan. It is a little bit more work on the side of the franchisee to go apply for an SBA loan. In all cases, I think it's important to note that if you borrow money, nobody's going to nobody's going to lend you 100% of what you want. Typically, you're going to find that with a bank or the SBA that you're going to have to be willing to put in 25 to 35% your own money, and you will spend that money before you're going to be able to use any of their money in the build out or the development of your restaurant. Okay, our next question is from Suresh, and he asks, how much money can I make with a franchise? Well, Suresh, isn't this the main question that we all want to know? Unfortunately, there's not an easy answer here. First of all, understand that the franchisor cannot give you this answer. The Federal Trade Commission does not allow that to occur because it would have the franchisor making an earnings claim, and they will not do that. So this is going to require some legwork on you. Now, certainly the franchisor is going to want to help you to get that answer because they're going to know that there's no way you're going to franchise a concept if you have no idea what it's potential to make. So they're going to help you with that. The financial disclosure document is a very long document that basically discloses the history and the current operations of that particular franchise. It typically will have ranges of costs in there so that you can take that and then apply it against a pro forma or P&L so that you can start to map out what that franchise will do for you in sales all the way down to its profit. The franchisees list that they give you, you can contact those franchisees and the franchisor will instruct you to do so. And then with the franchisees, understand, are not governed by that same Federal Trade Commission rule. They can tell you how they're doing in their restaurant. Now you got to be nice to them because they're going to be giving you information that they may consider proprietary, but they are able to give you information about their sales as well as their profit. So that's something that you definitely want to take advantage of because that's a way for you to take the ranges that you will get from the franchisor for all things, for sales, for equipment, for construction. They'll give you ranges that the franchisees that are in the system can give you more specifics, and that's going to help you to build that pro forma that you're going to need. You're going to need that pro forma not only for yourself, but if you go to borrow money, every bank or lender is going to want to have a pro forma of your business, which is basically your forecast for that business for the first year and probably out to at least 3 years. So your legwork starts there. It's a long journey, but you want to take the time because you want to answer the question you've asked. It's an important one. Our final question comes from Eric. And Eric asks, what kind of personal information do I have to give to the franchisor? Well, this is a good question, particularly in an age where we're all concerned about privacy and identity theft and what happens to our private information. But the fact of the matter is you are going to have to get comfortable with the fact that a franchisor is going to require some of that information so that they can evaluate you. The evaluation is based upon the fact that they want to make sure that they are trying to make this a success for you as for them. So what type of information should you expect to give them at a minimum? You will have to fill out an application for the franchise. That's going to require background information, your resume, and it more than likely will require you to submit a personal financial statement, which is basically your assets and liabilities, which work its way down to a net worth, and then shows the depth of financial resources that you have to make this restaurant work. The other information they're going to require would be information that they're going to need in order to run a credit report on you, as well as a background check. Again, the franchisor is going to have a profile of what a successful franchisee looks like. That information is contained within the private information that they're going to ask you to deliver to them. So I think it's important you understand that franchisors at a minimum would probably ask for what I just mentioned. They may ask for more, but it's all to evaluate you as a potential successful franchisee. We hope you found this helpful. There's a wealth of information over at franchisefrankness.com, so please come visit us there. Good day.